Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Most people know MKULTRA as a project involving LSD and sensory deprivation, but as the program evolved, the agency's Technical Services Division began to realize that the most effective way to influence a subject wasn't through a pill, but through the air. This was Subproject 54. Established in the late 1950s, Subproject 54 was dedicated to the study of acoustic subliminal perception. The goal was to find a backdoor into the human mind, to bypass the critical faculties of the conscious ear and deliver commands directly to the subconscious. The research focused on two extremes: sound that was too high to hear and sound that was too low to be perceived as anything other than a physical sensation. Subproject 54 researchers focused heavily on infrasound, frequencies below 20 hertz. While these sounds are inaudible, they are known to resonate with the human chest cavity in the inner ear. Declassified memos indicate the agency was testing if specific infrasonic rhythms could induce unexplained anxiety, physical nausea, or compliance in a target without the target ever knowing they were being subjected to a signal. A quote from an MKUltra log, Subproject 54. The objective is to determine the threshold at which acoustic energy can trigger a behavioral shift. Initial test on animal subjects suggests the low frequency oscillation can disrupt equilibrium and induce a state of heightened suggestibility. The application for crowd control or individual interrogation is significant. End quote. The agency collaborated with a series of cutout organizations, including academic acoustic labs, to hide the true nature of the research. They weren't just looking at weapons, they were looking at subliminal messaging, layering spoken commands beneath ambient noise like the hum of an air conditioner or the static of a radio, to see if the brain would decode the message even if the ear didn't hear it. Subproject 54 was not an isolated endeavor. It was deeply intertwined with the CIA's interest in bioacoustics. Declassified budget ledgers from 1957 show the agency funneled tens of thousands of dollars through the Society for Investigation of Human Ecology. This front organization allowed CIA researchers to study the effects of high-intensity sound on human cognitive performance without alerting the public to the military nature of the work. In the early 1960s, the agency explored the Frey effect, the phenomenon where the human head can actually hear certain radio frequencies as clicks or buzzes inside the skull. While Subproject 54 focused on sound waves, the research crossed over into using microwave energy to stimulate acoustic messages, a precursor to what we now call voice-to-skull technology. A quote from the project report, April 1960, "It is essential to refine the delivery system for these acoustic impulses. If the subject perceives the noise as originating from within their own mind, the psychological barrier to the command is significantly reduced. We are currently experimenting with ultra-directional transducers to achieve this localized effect." End quote. The agency's Technical Services Division contracted with a prominent university in the Northeast to investigate dichotic listening. In these tests, subjects were played two different messages in each ear simultaneously. Researchers found that they could bury a third subliminal message into the overlap, which the brain prioritized over the conscious dialogue. There's significant speculation among historians of the MKUltra program regarding the vibration tables mentioned in early Subproject 54 notes. Some believe these were used to test the resonance of internal organs, specifically trying to find a frequency of fear that could be broadcast in space to make an entire crowd feel a sense of impending doom without an obvious cause. Regarding the highly redacted sections on long-term conditioning, there is speculation that the CIA tested these acoustic signals on patients in psychiatric wards. The theory suggests that over weeks of exposure to subliminal frequencies, patients' behavior patterns were monitored to see if a default state of passivity could be maintained through sound alone. By the time the Rockefeller Commission began investigating the CIA in 1975, most of the physical hardware from Subproject 54, the oscillators and custom-built infrasound generators, had been destroyed. However, the theoretical data regarding audio-visual disassociation remained, forming the basis for subsequent psychological operations used in later conflicts. If you look at the declassified files, For Subproject 54, you'll find that the field application reports are almost entirely blacked out. The heaviest redactions occur in the sections titled Target Identification and Resultant Behavior. There's heavy speculation that the CIA actually moved these acoustic tests into the public sphere. Some theories speculate the agency installed infrasound transmitters in high-traffic areas like government waiting rooms or foreign embassies to test if they could lower the emotional resistance of individuals during high-stakes negotiations or interviews. Was Subproject 54 a success? Scientifically, the results were inconclusive regarding total control. However, as a weapon of harassment and psychological destabilization, it was highly effective. A quote from Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, TSD chief: "We have found that the human organism is remarkably sensitive to acoustic pressure. While we cannot program a man with a frequency, we can certainly make him feel as though his very soul is in a state of disharmony. That is an operational asset in itself." End quote. The legacy of Subproject 54 lives on in modern directed energy technology. Some of the technological breakthroughs as a result of this: parametric speakers. Research into beaming sound led to the development of speakers that can project audio to a single person in a crowd while everyone else hears nothing. Harmonic resonance mapping. The project mapped the exact frequencies that cause the human eyeball to vibrate, which can cause blurred vision and hallucinations. And subliminal layering software. Early analog techniques for hiding messages in music or white noise paved the way for modern digital steganography. Subproject 54 showed us that we are never truly in a silent world. Even when we hear nothing, our bodies are still listening. The agency's silent whisper proved that the most dangerous messages are the ones you can't hear, but that your brain chooses to follow anyway. Next time on CIA Declassified, we go to the front lines of the Cold War's most infamous failure. We examine the Station W records. Tucked away in a hidden island in the Caribbean, Station W was the secret heartbeat of the Bay of Pigs invasion. We'll look at the declassified radio logs that show the frantic final hours of the operation, where clandestine broadcast and coded music were the only thing connecting the agency to the men on the beach. Join us for the Caribbean Signal. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.